Hello, Tech Pros, episode 218.
Recognize that it's supposed to be hard. That's one of the hardest lessons, I think, that we as in life.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Dinesh Kandanchatha. Happy Monday, Dinesh.
Happy Monday.
Are you motivated to get this interview started?
Absolutely. Monday is full of possibilities. That's how I try to start my day. Is the week is full of possibilities.
That's right. It does not necessarily need to suck as bad as last week did, right? We can make this into something extremely awesome and get motivated for all the opportunities that may potentially be coming our way. I love it. Dinesh is a founder, mentor, and speaker, and above all else, an entrepreneur. He encourages founders to ask the right questions, navigate challenging decisions, and find those tough answers that are sometimes difficult to face. Dinesh, who has built, bought, sold, led, and or invested in over 13 companies, knows what it takes to transform a business. And Dinesh, I can imagine just in starting the two businesses now that I've had, Hello Tech Pros, and the thing that I tried to start about 15 years ago that didn't take off. Wow, there's a lot of high motivation and low motivation. I'm guessing like roller coasters that you've seen over your 13 companies that you've been involved in.
Yeah, I mean, let's call it what it is. There's a lot more lows than there are highs, right? And what separates, I think, the tenacious from the hobbyist is the ability to power through the lows. And that's, I think, a big part of our conversation today.
I love that, dude. Between the tenacious and the hobbyist, right? The difference between an entrepreneur and a wantrepreneur is the wantrepreneur sits around and wishes for the good things to happen and doesn't want to go through all the demotivating struggles and problems and troubles that an entrepreneur faces. Whereas the entrepreneur is like, yep, let's do it. It's just all part of the journey, and it's going to suck and it's going to hurt and it's going to be painful and I'm going to want to quit, but I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep pushing forward.
You hit it, man. That's exactly it.
Cool.
Amen, brother.
Amen, brother. Preach it. Preach it, Chad. Oh, man, I need to get off my soapbox. This is not my interview, dude. This is your interview. And you know what? It's not really an interview so much as it is a conversation with my new friend, Dinesh. And, on all these episodes, whether we talk about work or whether we talk about personal issues, we've all been there, dude. We have all been in situations where even if we care nothing about launching our own business, right? But just the slog of the daily stuff that we have to do, or the painful personal things that are going on in our life that just get us down. We've all been there in these areas where we are completely the opposite of motivated. We're completely unmotivated. So if you don't mind, you can pick one of the lows of your many lows, unfortunately, that you shared. One of the lows that you've had. Tell us about the time that you were completely unmotivated, and then we'll discuss what happened through that situation so that we can learn from it.
Sounds good. So let me preface that by saying, motivation is not a endpoint. It's an attitude. And I think a lot of people think of motivation as a state, right? I'm in a state of being motivated, or I'm in an emotional state of being unmotivated. And, in the process of failing a lot more than succeeding, but failing and succeeding, one of the kind of insights I got was, my motivation is really about my attitude, and it's independent of the state of the world around me or the challenges that I'm facing. And I guess that became most apparent when, after I had built a company and with a really great team. Just to be clear, the bio sounds really awesome, but it gives the impression that all this work I did on my own. The fact is that I was part of some phenomenal teams, and that's really a big part of success, and a big part of how you also get motivated is work with people you love to work with who will support you. And entrepreneurship is a team sport, not a solo sport, and so that's a big part of kind of that motivation equation. But the fact was, after one of my big, we had built this great company, we got acquired by a semiconductor vendor, we went public on the London Stock Exchange, and then the 2001 kind of 2001 tech crash happened, and I went out on my own to try to start something, and got in a series of lawsuits with my previous company, and then ended up stuck with my brand new wife of 1 year in my mom's basement, broke. And after you've built a company and taken it public, and now you're sitting on your bed that you slept in when you were 14, try to convince your wife that this is temporary and not permanent. Tough to be motivated, right? And man. I tell you, the thing that I learned through that experience as I was rebuilding was that it's really about if you force yourself into this state where I'm motivated today or unmotivated today, what ends up happening is you don't give yourself a lot of options, right? You end up in a very binary type of decision process. Whereas if I say to myself, what is my attitude today? Like, where's my head in terms of what do I feel? Where am I getting my energy, my passion from? And focus on your attitude instead of your state. It has a unique capability to change your state. So, when you're, to go back to the example, when you're sitting in your mom's basement and you're thinking, okay, I'm basically broke, unemployable, because as an entrepreneur, we all know that it's pretty difficult. Career entrepreneurs make horrible employees, and so you're pretty much unemployable. So you've got to come up with something. What can I do to set myself up with a winning attitude so that I can begin that slog of making things work, right? And finding those little wins that can up your energy and get you back in a place where you're moving forward. And the two elements of that is find something that makes you feel blessed. One of the things that really I've discovered is motivation can happen by just being thankful of all the blessings. We are very blessed as a group in North America because we live in a world where we pretty much can do anything we want. We don't have to worry about people shooting at us, and we can walk out the door and meet people and go to a meetup, a tech meetup, or an entrepreneur or startup event, and just absorb the energy of people around us and use that energy for ourselves. And that's a blessing. And there's other blessings, right? Your family, friends, community. Go to the places where your attitude you can change your attitude, and then understand that emotional state and bring it to what you're doing, right? And that's the hardest part of, in my view, of when you get down, is that you think this is a permanent thing and that, it's hopeless or it's not worth it. And you lose track of all of the wins that you had before, all the blessings you have in your life. And, you just kind of get into this attitude spiral downwards, and, check it at the door. Go find something to be happy and thankful for, and then look at what's possible moving forward.
Man, I love that, Dinesh. Thank you so much for sharing that story, because I think we have all been in these periods where well, at least speaking not on behalf of everybody in the world, but speaking on behalf of Chad, I have had these periods where I feel like I need an external motivator. Like my headspace is not in the right place, and I'm not being thankful for something, and I'm not really thinking about what my attitude is. I'm thinking about my situation, right? And I get down in the dumps about this situation, and I think, oh, woe is me. Like, this is so painful. This is so hard. Why is it happening to me? And a lot of this is coming from, in my personal experience, my personal background, the fact that I've struggled with social anxiety, and that social anxiety puts these negative thoughts in my head that says, you're a dork, you're a loser, nobody wants to hear from you, everything you do, you're a failure, and it's that
I hate that voice.
Yeah, I hate that voice, man. With that voice,
that guy
please.
should go on vacation, right? That guy should go on vacation. Leave me alone.
Do you have some duct tape that I can borrow to tape that man's mouth shut? I don't want to hear him in my head anymore. And so that can really, really get you down where you don't want to be motivated. But I love what you're saying here about, it's the attitude. It's where you are coming from. It's not the situation that you're in. It's the attitude that you bring to that situation. And after talking to yourself, and gosh, let's see, this is 200 and something episodes that we've done, and 1/7 of those are motivation. So a lot. I'm not a math major, but a lot of episodes on motivation. I'm listening to these stories where I'm like, oh my gosh, that is way worse than anything I have ever experienced in my life. I should be the most thankful person in the world, because the worst thing that I have is my own head thoughts that tells me that I'm stupid. I don't have all these major, huge problems that some of these other folks have dealt with and overcome, and they're happy about it, and they're joyous, and they're thankful, and they've got a great attitude, and they've got great motivation, and they're firing me up. So what do I have to complain about? I need to absolutely, as you said, Dinesh, just check my attitude and get in a better place.
And the other thing to think about is, and this was another reframing thing that I did that has really served me well, and I'll put it out for consideration, is we are a measure of the obstacles we overcome. And so if you don't overcome meaningful obstacles, you can't create meaning in the world. And meaning for entrepreneurship, translates to value, right? So the more meaningful you are, the more value you'll create, the more income you'll have, the more interesting work you can do, all that kind of stuff, right? So, if you think about all those things that you're probably thinking, why do I have to struggle this way? I reframed that in my head as, this is these obstacles are how I create meaning in the world, and meaning equals value. And if I don't solve meaningful problems, if I don't struggle in a meaningful way, I can't be meaningful. So what it does is it forces you to look at that obstacle, that challenge, in a completely different light. Like, this is part of the journey. This is part of how I create positive value. And these are meant to happen, as opposed to being the reverse, which is, why do I have to deal with this? Why isn't it easier? The reality is, neither one can be proven right or wrong. You just choose what you want to believe.
Yeah, dude, that's so true. It's like, that's it, man. It's you, these mountains that are in the world, right? And some people look at those mountains and go, yeah, I'll just stay here. I'll just stay. Yeah, exactly. I'll just stay where I'm at, because that's going to kill me, or I'll never make it to the top, or what's the point, right? And it's the people who have climbed the mountains and looked over beyond, and they're like, no, this is passable. We have done this. We have achieved this. We have climbed this mountain. We have overcome this obstacle. I have beaten this giant. Therefore, I can help you beat your giants. I can build these meaningful things in life because of the things we overcome. And I think so many times, again, just pointing to myself, I don't want to face these obstacles because I don't want to go through the pain. But it's really the pain that you overcome, the pain that you survive, really makes you into a bigger, better person that's able to achieve more value in life.
Yeah, steel is forged in fire, right? So, you don't get to be hardened steel and powerful and strong by picking roses, right? You get forged in fire, and fire means that there's some pain associated with it. But here's the lesson, I think, for entrepreneurs is, don't jump in and climb Mount Everest tomorrow. Start with your a local walk that's that's, a mile or something, right? Like, so a big challenge I think people do is they'll say, well, wow, I'm going to go and do this massive undertaking, when they haven't built up the muscle to get there, right? And then, if they fail, or they hurt themselves, they're like, see, I told you so. When in fact, what you really want to do is that attitude is a muscle, just like anything else. So start by small things, baby steps. I tell every one of the entrepreneurs I'm involved with in all my investments, right? It's about crawl, walk, run, right? We didn't wake up, as babies wake up one morning and start running down the street. No, we figured out how to roll over, and we figured out how to crawl, and we fell down a whole bunch of times, and then we figured out how to walk, and then, next thing you're Usain Bolt, right? Killing it, right? Fastest man in the world. But the fact is he didn't start running, when he was 2 years old. He figured out he built up that competency and that attitude, and it's much more than his physical, his entire package. But it's important that people understand that these kinds of things it's about that journey, and, set yourself up with those challenges that are, matched to your capability, but just out of reach. And I had this conversation with my daughter the other day, because I get her up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym with me. She's 12 years old. And, needless to say, I don't think there's a 12-year-old in the world that's happy at getting up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym. And, I promise you, her therapist is going to make a lot of money someday on all the stuff that I put her through. But, I said to her, we come back from the gym, and she's like, I feel awesome. And so I asked her, why do you feel awesome? And she goes, well, first off, I feel like before the day's even started, I've done something that no other 12-year-old I know has done. Right? I got up in the morning and I went to the gym and I ran for an hour. And then, of course, there's all the biofeedback as well, right. The endorphins and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, look, that's a great example of you stretching, you deciding, your attitude deciding your outcomes. You could have pressed the snooze button. You could have told me, Dad, you're a lunatic, let me go back to bed. But instead, you got out of bed, you came out with me in the dark, you worked out for an hour, and now you're starting your school day, right, with a completely different attitude than, 99% of your peers.
Yeah, and it's just because, she had a mentor there that said, come on, let's do this. And so you were her leader that said, and now as a parent, right, you had a little bit of authority there, but she had some inspirations. She saw you as a mentor, as a leader, as a coach, said, okay, let's do this. We're going to do it together. I'm sure at the very beginning, she probably did think, gosh, Dad, this is stupid. I don't want to do it. But now that she's got that biofeedback and she's talking to her friends, and her friends are going, wow, like you're a machine. Like you're amazing. How are you getting all this done, right? She's getting this feedback. Let's take it back, Dinesh, if you don't mind, to 2001. So I was in that .com bubble burst at the same time you were. We're at different parts of the world, different parts of business, right? But both experienced the same downfall where we were paper rich. Oh my gosh. I don't know how much paper rich you were, but I was planning on building a skyscraper and living up on the roof. Kind of like in Superman 3, if you've ever watched Superman 3, the one with Richard Pryor, and Richard Pryor's like this computer hacker. Well, he worked for that billionaire guy who had that penthouse up on the roof and snow skied. That's what I was going to do with my .com paper rich money, and then it busted, and and then it was like, okay, well, I have nothing. I have nothing to show for this 5 years of investment I put into the startup, but I have a lot of experience, and you know what? Gosh darn it, I can do it just as well as they can, and so I'm going to start something on my own. And I was I was completely broke,
awesome, brother.
Completely broke. Yeah,
I think all of us about the same age have been through that. We had mentally bought the Ferraris, and it was really bad when we were driving the 20-year-old Corollas the next day. But that's just what it is, man.
So when you were sitting there in your 14-year-old self bed, right, in your mom's house, and your new wife of you've just only been married a year, your newlywed, was sitting there with you, and you were trying to convince her that, no, this is going to be okay. Like, we're going to get through this. What was really going on in your head, and how when that realization that, oh my gosh, I'm literally living with my mom after I was paper rich and buying paper Ferraris, like what initially hit you?
Well, we're all human, right? And, you get that voice which says, frankly, you deserve this because you were never good enough for that stuff anyways, right? Mm. And I think we all have that. And I'm really blessed. My biggest cheerleader is my long-suffering wife. We've been married 18 years. And she's always believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, which, frankly, if there's a lesson, find somebody who will always believe in you. It doesn't have to be your wife. It could be a mentor. It could be a friend. But find somebody who every time you have doubt, when you walk to them, they'll go, what are you talking about? You're the smartest guy I know. You're the most motivated guy I know. You're the hardest working guy I know. Like, get off your ass and go make this stuff happen, right? Like everybody needs a friend like that, right? And if you don't have friends like that, go find and create friends like that, because the net of it is the people who are going to kind of misery loves company you are the wrong people if you want to do anything meaningful in life. So, I was in the same place, and, my beautiful wife gave me a kick in the butt and said, look, like, what are you complaining about? At the end of the day, you're educated, you've got a whole bunch of experience, all the things you talked about, and, you're going to do this. I have faith. I have faith in you. And that was enough for me. Like, okay, well, at least somebody believes. I'm going to go out and give her a shot. And again, try something small. And, my first thing after that was to figure out how I could, create a small consulting business so I could get out of the basement, right? That was the mission one, was how do I get $1,000 a month in so that I can, we can move out of here and move into a house, an apartment, our own apartment. And, we came up with, she went to work at McDonald's and I started going out doing commission selling, right? And get us out of the basement, right? For number one. And then once you're out of the basement, what's next? And, having that, and along the way, you get tired, you get frustrated, but then you come back to your attitude, which is, how blessed am I, right? And as long as you can keep coming back to that touchstone, you'll find the motivation you need, and the energy and the attitude you need so that you can go back out there and move it a little bit more forward.
I love it, man. Do whatever it takes to make it happen. And also, that the old adage, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And like you said before, dude, you gotta find those support groups, find those people who are gonna lift you up and kick you in the pants and get you moving, and not just hang around the same people who are in those low negative, feeling sorry for themselves situations where they're like, oh, look at us, we all suck, we all got laid off, we're all living in our mom's basement, no, we'll never amount to anything, blah, 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 all that negativity crap. Got to get rid of that. Tell you what, in just a moment, let's talk about the lessons that you've learned from working in these 13 different companies, the 13 different startups, and all the founders and all the amazing people that you worked with. What are their biggest motivational struggles, and what makes them successful entrepreneurs? We'll talk about that in just a moment, but first, we'll take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Are you new to podcasting? Are you looking for a fast, high-quality, yet budget-friendly podcast production team? Let TransSource Media take care of you. With a team of professional audio and video editors, writers, and graphic artists, they can help you build your podcast from planning, post-production, and platform submission. Using only cutting-edge software and studio equipment, they're here to make each and every show sound at its best. To get a free quote, please visit www.transsourcemedia.com or send them an email at marketing@transsourcemedia.com or call them at 209-505-5693. TransSource Media, transforming businesses through the power of multimedia. Okay, we're back with Dinesh Kandanchatha. We've been talking to Dinesh about, you know what, in the dot-com bubble burst, if you were alive during that period, we were all paper rich. Anybody who worked on Y2K up to the greatest and latest, everything has to be a something or other .com, then we were all amazingly rich people that had these startups that were going to change the world, and tons of people were pouring tons of venture capital money into it until finally somebody said, you know what, we're not making anything off of this. We gotta pull the funding out, and it all busted and it all crashed. And I went to living off of ramen noodles, and Dinesh went to living with his mom and it was like, you know what can we do to get out of this? Since then, Dinesh, as a founder, mentor, speaker, and entrepreneur, has worked in and invested or led or bought or sold 13 different companies. And as he said at the beginning, it wasn't a solo effort, right, Dinesh? You worked with a lot of different people. You've seen amazing people do amazing things over the course of your career. So let's talk about some of the lessons that you've learned by working with these other entrepreneurs. So if we're talking about how to find that attitude of, I'm going to be a winner. I'm going to overcome these obstacles. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm not going to give up in the face of adversity. I'm going to push through. I will be tempered by the fire, and I will be a stronger sword because of it. What were some of the negative things that you saw during all of these startups, and some of the lessons that you really learned as well?
I mean, the whole process of building companies is a lot like a microcosm of life, right? And you see all the elements of human behavior appear, both in failure and in success. My grandfather used to say, "Character is what happens when no one's looking." And luckily, I'm again, one of the blessings I have is I've gotten to work with some pretty awesome folks, and frankly, I've worked with some not so great folks, and you can learn lessons from both. And on the positive side, what I've found are founders who have a strong value system, right? And it doesn't, frankly, it doesn't matter what the value system is. There's very few people who are really bad in the world, but for the most part, people are trying to do the right thing, and they're founders who are able to communicate their values, what's important to them, what do they stand for, what are they not willing to stand for, and then live that authentically every day, as opposed to putting a bunch of words on a success stories tablet, a plaque on the wall, and everybody looks at it, but nobody lives it. Those are the ones that imbue those values into their organizations, and their organization becomes a reflection of them as an individual. So whenever I meet with founders, as an investor, one of the key things that I look for is a values match, and to understand that this individual is going to share similar values to me. They don't have to be the same, but they have to be congruent. And if they're congruent, I know that I don't have to think about how it gets done. I can appreciate and I can agree with the why and know the how will happen, provided the person is competent. And so values, that's a big part of how you stay motivated. When you see alignment and authenticity in your value systems and what you're doing, so acting authentically, it is naturally motivating for the people around you, because they say, okay, I get this. This person is going to follow through on what they say and what they believe. So as entrepreneurs, as we're leading people, and everybody's a leader to somebody, forcing yourself to be authentic, forcing yourself to communicate your values in a way that is understandable by others, and then living them without compromise. Because the as soon as you're compromising your values are meaningless. And people know it. People are really, really smart. I think we underestimate employees and investors and customers, and we go, oh, we can fool them. You can't. You just can't fool them. And so you might as well just be authentic, and then through being authentic, you will generate massive positive energy towards your mission, towards your BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. Your employees will love working with you, and you can then build this beautiful virtuous circle of energy where when you're down, the people around you bring you up.
Dude, I love that. I love that. So many good nuggets of information. I think our listeners can go back and replay that 3 or 4 minute segment over and over again and pick out a lot of different gems and jewels. The biggest one that I took is, some of the values that we talk about as what are my core values that I'm going to go into my business. Sometimes it's communication, it's customer service, it's integrity, and sometimes we use these words, but it's really kind of like the baseline for humanity, right? Like, we're going to be good communicators. Well, yeah, I hope so, right? I'm going to have integrity. Well, duh. Like, if you're not, then you're a jerk, right? But what's the real you? Like, what's the real Dinesh? What's the real Chad? When we get down to the real core values, what do I stand for? Like, if I was going to take a bullet for something, what would that be? And make that value come across in my business and make sure that everyone knows and I can communicate it effectively. Like, no, my family and fighting against social anxiety disorder. Like, dude, I am now lit up about that. Like, you say any of those words and Chad's brains, my neurons just start firing like fireworks, right? So that's what I'm all about. And so for you, the audience, what are you fired up about? What is the thing that you are really, really passionate about, if I can kind of use that term, right?
Yeah.
What are you passionate about? What are your values that you certainly, absolutely, definitely care for 100%? And then allow that to show. And then when you have that and when you show it, your motivation is going to go through the roof because you're on fire. Nobody can stop you.
There's an artifact I use with all of my the people I work with, which is was taught by a guy, Balaji Krishnamurthy, who's a really interesting guy. I took a course with him years ago, but it really changed my thinking, and it's called the Leadership Agenda. And I think everybody should do this, whether they're there, because like I said, everybody's leading somebody. And I'll just give you, so it's up on the wall in my home office, it's up in the wall in my office and anywhere where I spend any significant amount of time. And it's 4 or 5 statements written in the first person that say, how do you see the world? What is your worldview? And I'll just give you one example, rather than reading the whole thing out, just one quick example. And it's, one of my values is I will seek out dissent. I recognize dissent is the key to protecting the organization and it's inherently positive. So as a leader, my job is not to get people to agree with me, but to find the dissent in my organization, understand it, and recognize that dissent makes my organization stronger. And that's a great articulation of a value statement that anybody who works with me will see that and go, he doesn't want a yes man. He wants somebody to tell him the way it is, because that will make us as a team stronger.
Oh man, I love that. I could do a whole episode on challenging my employees to not be yes men and to tell me what dude, what do you really think? Dinesh, what do you really think? Do you hate me?
Yeah.
What about this project is pissing you off right now? What is he or she doing? What am I doing that's pissing you off right now? Is it asking you these questions? Good. Then I'm going to keep asking you these questions until I elicit an emotional response where I know that I've gotten to the heart of it. Anyway, I could talk about that for ages and ages, but you know what? We're going to have to save that for another episode, another podcast. Dinesh, before we go, can you share any parting words of wisdom? Because, I mean, you've shared a lot of intro wisdom, a lot of middle tier wisdom, and now we get to the end. Any parting words of wisdom for our audience? The best way that we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Sure. So, recognize that it's supposed to be hard. That's one of the hardest lessons, I think, that we as in life, right, and entrepreneurship or more broadly, it's supposed to be hard. So stop thinking it's supposed to be easy. Start thinking it's supposed to be hard, and then how can I have the most fun doing something that's supposed to be hard? So just that's that attitude thing. So that I'll leave that with people to think about. And how you get a hold of me is, Dinesh K at work. You can find me on Twitter. My website is dineshk.co. I'm in the middle of a kind of campaign. I'm on clarity.fm/Dinesh K at work, and I'm trying to raise $5,000 this year for charity. So that's clarity.fm, if you don't know, is an advisory type service for entrepreneurs and really anything. And it's an opportunity for you to engage with me. There's a cost associated with it, but 100% of it goes to charity. So it's an opportunity to do a little bit of good, get some information that you might not get elsewhere that hopefully could help your business, and everybody wins.
Well, Dinesh, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value this story of, sometimes our big ideas, our big things that we're working on, the thing fails, and it's not necessarily because of us. It's not because we deserve the failure, but sometimes we end up living at mom's house again, and we got to face reality that we there's something that we have to do about it. We can either accept this new reality and just continue living with mom for the rest of our life, or we can get off the bed and we can go forth and face some new adversity, new obstacles. I appreciate you calling that out on the podcast today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for asking me on, and wish all the best to your listeners. If they need anything, feel free to reach out. You can connect with me on any of those mechanisms. And I wish everybody all the best. Create amazing, meaningful businesses.
Cool. Thank you so much. Tech Pros, if you are really struggling with that headspace, like I was talking about before, that mental barriers that are telling you you're not good enough, you might as well just stay here at mom's house. You might as well not launch your business. You might as well not ask for the promotion. You might as well not do whatever it is that you really want to do, but your head is telling you you should not because you don't deserve it, because you're not good enough, and you're getting stressed out and you're getting anxious about it. I have been there. I can so relate. I can so empathize. I've got a lot of stories about my struggles with anxiety, just different anxious situations, as well as my struggle with social anxiety disorder. Even if you are not going through that, there's a lot of great stories that I can share with you to maybe help you get motivated to overcome some of the situation that you're in. If you go to hellotechpros.com/anxiety, sign up for that newsletter, and I'll send you lots of personal stories about all the kind of times that my crazy head told me and guided me down the wrong way. And hopefully you can learn lessons from there and overcome those obstacles that are holding you back. You've been listening to Dinesh Kandanchatha, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/218. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Motivation Monday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I talk about productivity. On Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. Then next week, we start it all over again with Motivation Monday. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.